Hi, welcome to the third video in the web programming lecture series. In our first two videos, we had a look at the internet, HTTP, the World Wide Web, and software architecture, specifically client-server. This is all necessary background information to allow you to know where web programming fits into the context of both the internet and this course. So now we've had a look at the background, let's get into building web pages. Web pages are comprised of three components: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is used to structure the content. CSS is used to format and stylize the web page. And finally, JavaScript is used to add behavior to the web page. Let's focus our attention towards HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. A markup language is a system for annotating a document that is syntactically different from the text that is displayed. Please note that HTML is not a programming nor a formatting language. It is the markup language of choice for the web. As HTML is a markup language, how we write HTML and how we view HTML are two completely different things. We write HTML pages just like we would any other text file. However, in the file name, we include the .html file extension. We can see the difference between the source code of a HTML file and how it looks. Let's go to a site, let's say csc.unsw.edu.au. We can right click and select View Page Source. Then we can see the underlying HTML of this page. This will work on any browser. For this series, I have been using Google Chrome. I have already touched on this, but the reason I use it is for the added functionality of Chrome Developer Tools. For HTML, it provides a more useful and interactive way to view the source code. By right-clicking on any web page, you can then navigate down and click Inspect. This will then show the underlying source HTML code from that specific page. We'll be able to see the benefit of this later in this series. Most of you should be familiar with programming in some capacity, whether it be C or Python. You are definitely used to getting errors, which is because you've usually done something wrong and the computer doesn't know what you want it to do, or you've broken the rules of that specific programming language. HTML and CSS are used to mark up and stylize a document that is going to be sent to another person. So if you make a mistake, the web browser is simply going to do its best with whatever code that you've given it to ensure the document is sent to the other person. Whether it looks the way that you intended is a whole nother story. The fact that you simply missed a tag or had some sort of typo in your code should not prevent the other person from viewing the document at all. Even though you're not going to get errors in your code, you will certainly still get bugs. So for the sake of maintaining your code, please structure it properly and pay extra attention to what you are doing. There are different versions of HTML, such as 3, 4, and 5. 5 being the latest version. There are some subtle differences that won't mean much to you now, but I'll make sure that you're aware of them throughout the series when they come up. Let's have a look at some code. HTML is made up of elements. An element is anything you see in between angular brackets. It will usually have an opening and a closing tag. A closing tag is denoted by the /. This means anything between the opening and closing tag will be marked up in a certain way depending on what the tag is. Please note that when you nest tags, to close off the last one first. See here, the last tag we opened was a B tag, so it is the first one we close off. Next, let's look at the structure of a HTML document. There are 4 key structural elements to a HTML document. The first tag you'll see is the declaration tag. This will tell the web browser that the content you're about to read should be interpreted as a HTML document. Next we have the root tag. This is an opening and closing HTML tag, which everything in the HTML document should go inside. From here, everything in a HTML document can be split into one of two categories: information that we need to know but should not be displayed on the web page, and information that should be displayed. Everything that won't be displayed on the page will go into the head tag, and everything that will be displayed will go into the body tag. Things that go inside their head tag include the document title that will be displayed in the tab, the author of the document, any linked CSS files to style the document, any externally linked JavaScript files, and the icon that also appears in the tab. Things that go inside the body are any content we want to display to the user. This includes headings, paragraphs, divs, images, and tables. One of the most important parts of writing HTML is indenting. It allows us to identify any content that falls inside of a tag and clearly see the structure of our document. It develops a notion of levels. For example, here you can see that the body tag has inside of it a header 1 tag and a paragraph tag, as shown by the indenting. Since the H1 and P tag are on the same level of indenting, we say that they are on equal levels. Indenting makes the code easier to read, easier to find bugs, and shows levels very clearly. It makes your code much more maintainable. As your web pages get bigger and bigger, indenting will become your best friend. Now let's have a look at some of the most basic tags. So let's open up our HTML example. I'm going to click my file and just drag and drop it over here into Google Chrome. Then I've just opened up my HTML document in Notepad and I've got it side by side with Google Chrome. The first thing we're going to look at is this title tag. Now if I go up here and change this to Isaac's page, I'm going to press save and I'm going to go over to Google Chrome and then refresh my page. We can see that it's changed to Isaac's page in the tab. The next thing to look at is headings. We'll see that HTML has a built-in support for headings H1 to H6. If we save this and refresh it, we can see that it's quite a big heading. If I change this to a heading 2, it'll get a little bit smaller, all the way down to H6. Save and refresh, and we can see that's quite a small heading. The next most basic tag we have is the P tag, which stands for paragraph. We can see here, if we save and refresh, we've just got Web Programming Lecture Series as a basic paragraph. We can add in another one. Let's say, hello world. We're going to close it off. We'll save and refresh, and we see we have another paragraph underneath. The last basic tag we're going to look at today is going to be the table tag. So what we're going to do is get rid of our 2 paragraphs. We'll save it, refresh it, and now we'll whack in a table tag, which is just table, and we'll put in our closing table. Now the next thing we're going to do is put in a row, which is a tr tag, and we'll put in a closing row tag, and then within inside a row we then have a td, which stands for a cell. I'm just going to put hi, and then we'll put in another one and close it off. Because I'm lazy, I'm just going to copy and paste this to demonstrate what's going on. Make sure we get our indenting in, come over and refresh, and you can see we now have hi world, hi world. Tables are generally used for structuring data, so this isn't really showing it at the moment. It could be just 2 paragraph tags. So to demonstrate that it is indeed a table, let's save and refresh. So now we can see that we have 2 distinct rows with 2 distinct columns. We can also put in table headers. So let's copy this first row and paste it, line up our indenting. And we can do that by changing our TD tags to TH tags. And this stands for table heading. So let's save that, come over here and refresh it. And now we can see we have bold text, which is standing for a table heading. So in this video, we had an introduction to web pages, looking at the basics of HTML, the quirks of HTML errors and versions, viewing source code, and HTML elements and basic tags. Tables also give us the ability to put data over multiple rows or over multiple columns. So if I change this to row span equals 2, I can save this, come over and refresh, and we can now see that that specific cell is going over 2 different rows. Similarly, if I come down to the bottom to demonstrate this properly, let's make some extra columns, save, refresh, td col2, td, save and refresh. Now what I can do is in this last one, let's make another one, copy, paste. So in this first cell, if I want this to go over 2 columns, I can just write colspan equals 2, and we can now see that that data goes over 2 columns. So row span and colspan can be very powerful when we want to structure content.